Hello and welcome to the Goldenrod Podcast. We are just less than a week away from this year's Pokémon Presents, and I'm joined not by Conor this week. I'm joined by Sam, who has been on the podcast once before.
Yep.
Once?
Yep.
Once
one
before.
Time.
But
That's
we've been together for several years now. That's all, just that one time. But we're here to kind of break down what we want to see and, in all likelihood, what we are going to see. As always, you can jump to a topic using the timestamps in the description below, but chances are that is this entire episode just us geeking out on Pokemon Day 2024. But before we jump into that, Sam, how is it being on the podcast once again, and how weird is it me calling you Sam?
I was just going to say that. It's really strange. Nobody calls me that, except for Yoshi, who is one of my mods in my live streams, and every time I jump into a stream, he's like, hey, Sam, and I'm like, he knows my name. It's weird. Like, stop using
weird.
it. It's so weird.
It's like to the point where whenever we are going to record and I'm telling my wife that I'm recording, it's never I'm recording with silence. I'm recording with British. Like that's just what is that? Just recording with British. Which when I say it back now, thinking about it, that's actually kind of weird. Like I'm recording with British.
With British, it's like if you said that to anyone except Molly, they'd be like, what? What? Don't know what you're on about. It's weird.
So It is, but let's just see if we can get through this. And we have no idea how many times you're probably going to call me Hoeing. I'm probably going to call you British.
A lot.
But just say, which is just confusing because there's Ben, there's British. Anyway, so
British Ben.
Pokemon British Ben?
Yeah. British. Technically, there's British because I'm British. I just am no longer British because I got my citizenship. So I'm British, American British. There you go.
You're American British, just to confuse things even further. So, onto the big topic this week. Pokemon Day. It is nearly here. I say Pokemon Day. Pokemon Presents. Did I say Pokemon Day?
You did.
Pokemon Presents. Right.
How dare
Pokemon
you.
Presents, which is a completely different thing than Pokemon Day. Do I wish there was a national Pokemon Day that we got off every year to play Pokemon games? Yeah, I'd vote for that, but unfortunately, I'm not ruler of the earth yet, so we can't really do that.
What?
However, not yet. I said not
okay.
yet. Not yet, okay. But Pokemon Presents is nearly here. And I guess I just want to take it like a bit of a, temperature check. Like, how are you feeling towards it?
I'm excited.
Are you excited?
Well, wait, I gotta clarify. Am I excited for Pokemon Day when you're ruler of the earth or Pokemon Presents? We need to clarify. Which one?
The Pokemon Day thing, you will have to be excited. That will be mandatory by law.
Mandatory? Okay, so I'm excited for that definitively, yeah.
Right, okay, right. Yeah, you can call off the hit squad. It's okay. It's okay. It's cool. He's good.
So, Ben, I am excited. I am excited for Pokemon Presents. I'm really excited because I think there's different ways they can go about it. You and I have talked a little bit about this in previous recordings and stuff, but it feels like it's very open in terms of the direction they could go. There is a clear-cut direction which they could go, which is Unova, obviously continuing the trend of the remakes, but there's Let's Go, there's Legends, there's Remakes, there's the potential for Gen 10. I think it's a little too soon, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I've mentioned a couple of times now to a few different people, you're one of them, that this Pokemon Presents is the one I'm most excited for because it feels so open-ended in terms of what Gamefreak and the Pokemon Company can do. Because there are a couple of factors playing into this one that haven't played into previous ones that have been pretty obvious, or at least we've been pretty clued in as to what is coming outside of maybe the occasional Legends Arceus or Pokemon Unite that just comes out of absolutely nowhere. For the most part, it's kind of standard what we get in each Pokemon Presents. We get, something about the anime, something about Pokemon Master, something about Pokemon Cafe Remix, Unite, all those kind of things, and then usually ends up with here's something about the mainline series or the current console. What is different about this time is the factor of Switch 2 is somewhere on the horizon, either this year or probably very early next year, which is playing a factor. We've also got the fact that, the next mainline Pokemon game is Generation 10, and typically most companies, when they come up to a 10th version of whatever it might be, they like to put some kind of spin on the marketing or direction of it, either bringing back something from a nostalgia point of view or trying something completely fresh and innovative. But then also, we've got the 30-year anniversary coming up in the next couple of years that will also impact on this. 30 years of Pokemon is absolutely ridiculous. Honestly, absolutely ridiculous, because it's just, that's how I'm 30. I'm nearly 35. Okay, so this is suddenly dawning on me just how old Pokemon is. Okay, thank you. I was basically a baby when it came out, and it's absolutely just crazy that we've got all these things coming together. And what is that going to mean for Pokemon Presents? And I guess one of the other things that I didn't mention is, we've spoken about Legends Arceus and how, it's, it wasn't for everyone. You weren't a fan of it from the battling aspect, while I was a huge fan of it. But we've had nothing about Legends since then. So is that we tried that, it's done, it's dusty, we just wanted to get it off our chest? Or is there potential that is also coming back? We've got the remakes as well, because up until, the last remake, I would have said that each remake was a slam dunk. It was just an easy sale, and yet BDSP...
sorry, backtrack a little bit. You would have said it's a slam dunk up until what? Until BDSP?
Slam dunk. So slam dunk is in every remake was perceived really well, and then BDSP came out to a lukewarm reception of, it's a great remaster, but it's not a great remake.
Well, so how so, though? Because one thing that I'm going to bring up later is sales. So if we're talking money and how much it's earned, I don't know, I guess if we're talking specifically like the chibi style, which is the elephant in the room, right? Like that's the thing people didn't love. Sales-wise, they competed with all the other games in terms of remakes, so I don't know that I fully agree with that. I get what you're saying with that.
I was coming from it from a review perspective, because of course money, like all the mainline Pokemon games make dollar over dollar. It's ridiculous.
Yep.
But do they really want to go down the line of, do we really want to open ourselves up to even more criticism, especially after the criticism Scarlet and Violet received when that launched as well, in terms of the raids and the issues with the graphics and the frame rate, all issues that persist even now. So I guess this is what I mean by this. Pokemon Presents just has that opportunity for the Pokemon Company and Gamefreak to come out and just hit us with something that we don't expect.
So here's...
And I guess...
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry,
you took a big
ahead.
pause there, so I jumped in. I'm sorry to cut you off. I was going to ask you, if you don't mind, so do you think it's too early for them to promote some type of teaser for Gen 10?
I don't think it's too early for a teaser.
Okay.
I think it's too early for a trailer.
Yes, agreed.
Of any kind of Pokemon footage. I do not expect to see that. I expect if they are going to do something with Gen 10, which I don't think we'll get anything for Gen 10 in this Pokemon Presents. I think we'll get something for Gen 10 in the Presents that we will likely have in the latter stage of this year, probably around August or September. But if they're going to do anything, I could see what they did for when they announced Scarlet and Violet, and it was that kind of, they were moving through building and they were zooming in on loads of different artifacts and
there
stuff,
was the flashlight or whatever, and
that was
that's
it.
Right. That's the kind of trailer I was thinking of in terms of like promoting it for this. Yep.
I think we could see something like that. I still think it's too early, and this is the thing. Like, we get a mainline Pokemon game roughly every 3 years. There's been one or two outliers where it doesn't quite do that, but for the most part, it's every 3 years. Scarlet and Violet came out at the end of 2022, which is absolutely crazy that it's been out for a year and
2 months,
4
months,
months,
like
year and 4 months at this point is absolutely ridiculous. And if we are on track to see Generation 10 on that 3-year cycle, then in all likelihood we're getting it next November, which, you know,
probably
a year and 8 months away. Is that too early to be teasing a new Pokemon game? I don't think it's too early to tease.
Well, I think it's not too early because of what you said about that trailer with the flashlight that I now vividly remember. They only showed, if I remember correctly, the starters, because that was the last thing you saw. Was it showed the starters? I don't remember. I'd have to go back because it's been a long time. I don't think they showed any actual gameplay footage. It was just pictures of the starters. It said Pokemon Scarlet, Pokemon Violet coming soon, you know, or something like that. Or it had like see more for information or whatever it is. See more for information. I don't know, whatever. It said, but basically it was very minimal information. I think there were some things set up in that room the guy with the flashlight had where it was like, because I remember watching it back after we beat the game when you and I played it. There's like a book representing like the Scarlet and Violet books. There's like little hints and teases in there of what was coming now that we know what happened in the game. I could see a brief glimpse of, you know, coming 2025, and there's like a shot of something. I have an idea of what I think it'll be. I don't know when in the video we want to get to kind of our predictions on that stuff, but
let's get into that now then. In terms of, let's break down what we think we should see. Now, I think before we jump into because this, while normally me and Conor talk about the mainline games, and then every now and again we divulge off. What we have to remember is Pokemon Presents isn't just Gamefreak; it is the Pokemon company that presents this. So therefore we get other things that, you know, myself and Conor don't typically touch. So chances are it's very likely we are getting something around the mobile games. So Pokemon Unite is in all likelihood in there. I don't think they've missed a Pokemon Present since it debuted, because they're constantly bringing out new Pokemon, new events. So Pokemon Unite is going to be in there. In all likelihood, Pokemon Go is going to be in there, as well as is Pokemon Masters and Pokemon Cafe Remix.
Hold on, you're missing the most important game, Pokemon Sleep.
Go on. Pokemon Sleep.
You don't play that? Are you not every day waking up next to your Snorlax? Come on.
I still haven't played that. So my plan actually with that was when I was at my old job.
Yeah.
I was going to just have Pokemon Sleep on my phone when I was working from home, just on the side. And I never got round to it. I downloaded it, and then I just didn't have the intention to do it. Mainly because I thought I already consume so much Pokemon content and play so much Pokemon content that I thought to myself, you know what? I need one less app on my phone that is based around Pokemon, so I just never got round to it. In fact, I need to double check this. Have I still got Pokemon Sleep on my phone?
That's funny. So
no,
you
I
did
haven't.
You did download it.
Downloaded it and then got rid of it. So we usually get all those kind of things. Yeah. Pokemon Sleep could that. You know what? In all likelihood, Pokemon Sleep could be on there again. I don't think they'll do much with Pokemon Sleep moving forward, though.
That's fair, but they'll have like Cafe Remix as well, and they'll have the cards. They'll probably talk about Pokemon Masters. I think you may have mentioned that already. Pokemon it's Masters the standard EX, that they have those like 6 to 8 groupings. I do think that. I'll save that for when I talk about what I think is coming. But I feel like we will have I feel like it'll be split in half this upcoming Presents. The first half will be all those things you talked about. We will get, I think, 10 to 15 minutes of a big trailer for what they're announcing for the game or games, plural, that I think we might get. So,
okay, let's jump into that then. I want to know what you're thinking we're going to get.
So, this is my prediction, and it's not, I haven't seen leaks for this or anything like that. I think they're going to mirror what they did in 2020, 2021. I think there's and I'm not sure about this. I tried actually looking this up earlier. So, and maybe you know the answer to this or not. Do we know if the Pokemon Company signed a long contract with ILCA? So not just for one game?
I don't know, to be quite honest with you. Nintendo, Pokemon Company, Gamefreak are very good at keeping things under wraps in terms of the inner workings of what goes on, they keep to themselves. And obviously there's a benefit to that in terms of, there's a reason why so many leaks that you see online don't typically match up with what actually happens, because the companies are so good at keeping that information internal. But the downside of that, unfortunately, one of my frustrations with Gamefreak and the Pokemon Company is they're not open and honest with their communications. So we don't know what kind of contract was signed with ILCA. However, I'm pretty sure they're responsible for Pokemon Home.
Really? I didn't know that. Wow, okay.
Yes, developed by ILCA. Yeah.
So the reason I bring that up though is because we don't know. My guess, if I had to throw something, and I'm just assuming, I have no clue if this is true or not, but if I'm the Pokemon Company if I'm ILCA, I probably go to the Pokemon Company and say, look, if we meet these goals, you give us the opportunity to do another game. And to be honest, I looked up some of the numbers for the sales, kind of like what I said earlier in the video. So I believe Legends Arceus sold $900. They made $900 in revenue. $900 million. Sorry, not $900.
$900. Could you imagine? We just barely broke even. Are we gonna get another
close,
one?
Yep. So it was $900 million for Arceus, and then I believe BDSP was. Oh no, sorry. Arceus I think was $905 million, and BDSP was like $900 million. So they both hit the $900 million mark. If you look at all the games Pokemon has made, the mainline games specifically, those two games sold more copies and made more gross revenue than like majority of the games except for Scarlet and Violet. Surprisingly, X and Y and Let's Go Pikachu did better. Those are like the three mainline games that did better, which makes me think that ILCA is going to make another game. And my prediction is that we are going to get 2 reveals in this Pokemon Presents. They're going to work on Pokemon Gen 10 in the background, because they're going to still, they probably started working on it back with Scarlet and Violet. But I think we're going to get something similar to what we got in 2020, where BDSP came out, and then 2 months later we got Arceus. I'm not saying we're going to get Black and White Remake, the exact same as BDSP, and then a Legends Celebi game. I'm not saying that. I just mean that I think they're going to give us 2 mainline games, whether that's a Black and White Remake and like Johto Let's Go, or maybe it's Arceus Manaphy and like Gen 5 Black 2 Remake, but in a different style, like Sword and Shield. I don't know, but I have a feeling we're getting 2 games. That's my prediction, and ILCA's involved in one of them, because why not?
Okay. So I've just looked up ILCA just because I'm curious, because I obviously Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. In the back of my mind, I knew they did Pokemon Home. It's not the first time that I've heard that, but yeah, they did Pokemon Home, and they also did Pokemon Sleep as well. So, which makes me think that this partnership isn't a one and done. Yep. Obviously, if they've done 3 games, I say 3 games, they've done 1 game and 2 apps, for lack of a better word. They've obviously got some kind of skill set that aligns with Pokemon. They've obviously proved that, with BDSP, for, while I think it was lackluster as a remake, graphically, technically, it works. And if it had been sold to me as a remaster, I wouldn't be anywhere near as frustrated or upset with what we got for that game. Yep. But it's the fact that, I went in with those expectations of every single remake they've done has just taken the base game of what it was before and just elevated it. There's a reason why ORAS is so highly regarded in the Pokemon community, because it just takes the base game and just elevates literally everything about it.
Yep.
Now, there were rumors and theories circling around ILCA because they released artwork of BDSP in terms of, these are kind of the things that we wanted to develop. And it's still unclear if they were just like something they presented to get in their foot in the door and get the job, or whether or not it was this is our concept for BDSP, and look at the amazing things that we want to do. And, there are rumors and thoughts around, the Pokemon company stepped in and said, you can't outdo Game Freak at Pokemon. Like, you just can't come in and do that. But ILCA's obviously proven that they can do Pokemon, which, all these rumors about ILCA getting the remakes for Gen 5, I think there's a foundation there. I think there is some truth there. And what I can see that being is, okay, ILCA, you don't need to do any of the, creativity that Game Freak does, because you're just remaking what is already there. You don't need to go off and design new Pokemon. You don't need to design new characters. You just need to take what was there and basically just create a version that is modernized. That then frees up Game Freak to do what they are currently doing of any new games that come out in the mainline generations, and then any games where they get the opportunity just to kind of try something new, like Legends Arceus and Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Now, I don't think, when you mentioned that X and Y and Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, why their sales are where they are. Now, I think that they are where they are mainly because they're the first games on the new console. So Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were the first game on the Switch, and X and Y were the first games on 3DS. So, if you're an adopter of that console early, of course you want to get in there early, but also those games are there for the lifetime of that console then. So, of course, they're going to have that chance of getting higher sales. But Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee was a game that allowed Game Freak to just experiment. Yeah. Because we haven't had anything like that since. So I'm leaning towards ILCA being that kind of, you take the stuff that we don't need to really think about, it's in safe hands, and that frees up our team to basically, instead of having to do 3 projects every one a year, we now only have to do 2 projects over a 3-year period. And I think one of the things that backs that up is there was I'm trying to remember who it was. There was an article about and I can't remember if it's someone from the Pokemon company that came out and said, no, we're aware of some of the workload issues that we have, and we're going to look at ways that we can manage that. And obviously when that article came out, all the headlines were Game Freak slowing down production. Like, they're slowing down production and they're bringing out less games. I didn't read into that's not what I read from that. What I read from that is, no, we're still going to do 1 game every year, but we need to find a way to manage that. And maybe the way they manage that is ILCA comes in, does that, and Game Freak can then free up their time for other things.
And see, that's why I think the new norm is going to be not necessarily the new norm as every year we get 2 new games, but it's been, we got Legends came out, the start of 2021? That's been 3 years now. So I could see every couple years they're like, look, ILCA, do this game like what you just said, super easy because we have the blueprint. We're going to give you a few tweaks and changes to make to it, but we'll guide you on that. And then we're going to make all the great creative stuff. So we're going to pump out 2 games that are going to sell really well. Both of them are. We're going to make a ton of money. It's going to give a ton of people like us who are content creators to make more content because there's more games. But it also goes back to what you and I have talked about, and I know you and Conor have talked about before, is it gives them a chance for more Pokemon trading cards. It's the toys. It's the clothing. There's no reason for them to not include ILCA. And the reason why I think ILCA is going to stick around for a while is not just what you made some great points with home and sleep, which I didn't know those were by ILCA. That's really interesting to know. I think if you're ILCA, why would you pass up continuing doing this? If you're ILCA, you're I'm going to get paid so much money as a business, right? Not if you look at it from a consumer standpoint, those games had issues and they had opportunities and there were flaws that I remember watching the people that were like, the Patters, United Gamer, the bigger PokeTubers, and they saw the chibi and they went, okay. So from a consumer perspective, it's like, this isn't great. But from a business standpoint, I don't think they care. They look at the sales and go, we crushed it with both these games. ILCA, keep going. And ILCA's going to say, okay, let's keep doing it. So that's why I could be wrong, but I could see 2 games coming out. What those 2 games are, I have no idea, but I'm also here for it. I'm down for more games if ILCA's pitching in. So
yes, I'm of the mindset that I could take a new Pokemon game every 2 years. I could. But there is something nice about knowing every single year you're getting a fresh Pokemon experience. And thinking about whether or not we get a remake announced for BDS, a remake announced for Black and White in this Pokemon Presents. Now, it's strange because BDSP came out in 2021.
Yep.
And there was a 7-year gap between that
2020.
and the...
Came out in November 2020. Because Arceus came out You said 2021. I mean, it was like 2 months off, but yeah. Because it was November 2020.
What I'm reading here is 2021 here. No, Arceus was Arceus was the February because Arceus got delayed because originally.
So it was it was November 2021 when BDSP came out. Why did I think it was 2020? Okay, sorry, I'm wrong. Way off.
Yeah, no, Legends Arceus was February 2022, and then Scarlet and Violet was November 2022. So in the space of a year, we got 3 Pokemon games, which is ridiculous. Like, that is too much for me. That's ridiculous how and the only reason Legends Arceus came out in February rather than November is because it got delayed. So their original plan was to release both of those games at the same time, which I have never known of a company do that, except I read this the other day that apparently the Ubisoft did it with one of the Assassin's Creed, 2 of the Assassin's Creed games. They released 2 Assassin's Creed games at the same time. Now, from a organization business point of view, that is crazy because what you want to do is spread that out because your consumers can only buy so much. You know, you've got those diehard fans that will buy both of them, but you know, as a parent, like if my daughter comes to me and goes, "I want these 2 things that have been released today," well, sorry, you're getting one of. You're getting
gonna be
one
like
of
$70 too each, so you're gonna be spending almost 150. Well, £150 for you, but yeah,
exactly. So the point I was originally making is there was a 7-year gap between BDSP and ORAS. Okay. So you know, if you were to look at that, you say, "Oh, the next remake is 2028." Okay. However, I think that BDSP was meant to come out much sooner, and the reason they put that out to ILCA was because of just overload of how much they were trying to do. Because when you look at Fire Red and Leaf Green, that was 2004. Heart Gold and Soul Silver was 2009. So there's a 5-year gap between them. Then ORAS was 2014. Again, a 5-year gap. That would mean that BDSP was potentially meant to come out in 2019, and the next 5-year gap is 2024, which is this year. So there's a potential that actually they do want to kind of stick to that. You get a remake every 5 years, but BDSP was just the outlier that got pushed back a little bit. So maybe we are getting a Black and White remake this year. Now, I personally would like Black and White to be a series where they, again, try something new.
Yes.
Because Black and White is the only mainline Pokemon game that we have had a direct sequel to in Black and White 2. I would like to see, you know, the Gamefreak doing what Gamefreak does every now and again of going, "Oh no, you expected this, but we're going to give you this instead." And it's a spin on what we've already had. Black and White 3, a true sequel, I would absolutely love to see that.
Okay, I could see that. So one thing. Okay, so there's a difference between what I'm expecting versus what I would like, right? And this is kind of what we were going to lead into. So my expectation, again, is going to be 2 games. They're going to be different. One's going to be a remake. One's going to be unique. One thing I would love to see, and I don't know how they would make this work or how it would line up, I would love to get another 2-region game. And I think we're long overdue for that. And I think that's something that... It doesn't break the mold, right? It's not new. Like, they did that in Heart Gold, Soul Silver. They did it in Gold, Silver, Crystal. I get that. But, like, it's long overdue for us to get another 2-region game. I actually would love if they did, this is what I personally would like, if they do a black and white remake, or black to white 2 remake, or black 3, any of those 3 options, I'd love that for the one game. The second game, I would love a like Unova Kalos crossover, because if I understand correctly, Kalos is tied to Gen 9, like the Blueberry Academy, that whole, or wait, no, am I thinking of Unova?
No, so Unova is based in it's based off New York.
Yep.
So it's based in America, and Generation 9 Scarlet and Violet, we got Kizakami, which I'm not 100% where Kizakami is, to be quite honest with you.
Same.
But Blueberry Academy was confirmed that it is Unova. You actually go to a portion of Unova. So there's already that link between Generation 9 and Black and White, and as we know, Gamefreak like to tease the next game in the current game. So we saw that with Sword and Shield. There was a couple of hints as to what it was, and a lot of the times the hints don't make sense until you know what is coming up. So there are probably, things that we've seen in Scarlet and Violet that obviously hint at what's coming next, but because we don't know what that thing is, we just think they're just background noise. They're just background visuals that you don't notice. And I have seen a few images of people breaking down things they've seen in Scarlet and Violet that prove that we're getting the black and white remakes. We're going to... let me rephrase that. Things in Scarlet and Violet that show that we're returning to Unova. Whether or not that's a remake, a sequel, or a Legends variety, we don't know yet.
So, but where I was going then with that, so thank you for correcting me on that. So it's not Kalos is related, it's Unova. So, but either way, I think the point still remains that, like, I would love a crossover, and not just a crossover in terms of, like, okay, you have access to Unova, and I don't know, we'll say Kalos as an example, because they're, Gen 5, Gen 6. Not just that, but like I'd love some like interactions, kind of like Pokemon Masters did, I think, a great job of this, where they have the interactions between a Gen 2 gym leader and an Elite 4 Gen 4 member, right? Or Gen 4 Elite 4 member. That's how that was. Worst gen I could have chose for that sense. But like I'd love that crossover, or like, or something that maybe that's a Gen 10 thing, is where they merge the regions. But like, I personally would love a game where we have access to multiple regions again. Johto has its flaws, and I've talked about them before, and everyone is well aware of the flaws. But if they could do a upgraded version of that, and maybe we get those 2 regions connected, and maybe it's just a remake of Johto. Maybe it's a Let's Go Johto, and it's got better graphics and updated. I don't know. That's what I want. I want a Gen 5 remake with a multiple region. The other game would be a multiple region.
I think so. So there's two things there, I guess. If it's 2 regions we haven't been in before, I can see them doing it in the Scarlet and Violet style, because you can build that however you want it then, because it's fresh. You're not really you're going to try and trick people into it's 2 regions when actually they're just building one game and it's just split into 2 regions. However, if we want to see a true double region thing like Kanto and Johto, I think the way they can realistically do that is with the chibi sprites, because those chibi sprites, they're kind of, the trees, the people and everything, it allows you to hide things, because the problem with Scarlet and Violet is it's 3D, you can see everything, so it requires a lot more work to build that. Whereas obviously the chibi style, if you zoom out of, Jubilife City, everything around Jubilife City it's just dead. There's nothing there. It's just like blank space. Whereas if you do that in Scarlet and Violet, that kind of style, you zoom out, you suddenly have to go, okay, around these areas, we need to populate this with mountains, with fields, with Pokemon, with people. And that's one of the reasons I think that Scarlet and Violet looks so bare when you're traveling, because they suddenly realized, we've never done this before, and we haven't got things to fill in all these locations.
That's a good point.
Which is honestly why, actually, like, I'm kind of okay. I've come around on the idea of the remakes having that kind of chibi sprite style is is a cheap and easy way to kind of maximize your time on building things and putting the player where you want to go, rather than having to worry about, okay, they go out of this city and it's a 360-degree map. Okay, we've got to fill everything. It is, they go out of the city and you either go the north path or the east path. Like, you've only got to bulk out those two areas. So I could see remakes going down that route of, no, you get that chibi style animation, sprite, models, whatever you want to call it. That's what you get moving forward.
I could see that. That makes sense.
And I would be okay with that. And the ability to go to multiple regions, I would love to see that again. Do I need it? If I had to make the choice between double region or people interacting that we haven't seen before, I'd rather take the people interacting. Like,
that's fair.
So Pokemon Masters is. I read a comment a long time ago that was basically, oh no, if you want to see people interact and you want to see the continuation of people's stories from the mainline games, you will never get that in the mainline games. You have to go to Pokemon Masters EX, because Pokemon Masters EX is that kind of continuation. It's acknowledged by multiple players in that game that they went on their adventures. Now they're on this island, and they continue their adventures. Like, there was an excellent story when I was playing Pokemon Masters that followed Gold and Ethan from Generation 2, and Gold, and they were hunting down Ho-Oh, and Gold was convinced he wasn't good enough for Ho-Oh, and Ho-Oh chose him as his trainer, and, Ethan was constantly bugging him, going, oh yeah, well, we're friends, and Gold eventually gets worn down to the point where at the start of the story, he's like, no, we're not friends, to the end of the story where he kind of just sighs and goes, yeah, I guess we're friends. And it's just those character developments and moments that I really would love to see in a Pokemon mainline game, of bringing in past characters and having them interact with the new characters.
Yep.
Generation 10, like you said, could be where we see that.
Well, and can I just throw one other thing in there before I lose my train of thought? I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
One thing I would say is interacting and having people interact from other regions. You know where we got that? We did actually get it in Gen 5, because there's that tournament where you can battle on stage.
There is.
And so that's, I mean, if you're going to have characters come across from different regions, Gen 5, yep, exactly. So, that to me would be really cool. And I'd love to, I don't know that we'll ever get it, but again, if that's, I would love to get that. You're right. I think I'd probably choose the interacting over the 2-region thing. But it does seem weird that we've never gotten that. Like, they did it with Johto, the second generation, 7 generations ago, and never touched it again. And it seems like such an odd thing to not go back to. I don't know.
Do you know the history? Do you know the history of that? So why we got that? So I'm sure if Conor was here, he'd be able to explain it much better than I can. So the way I understand it is that Pokemon was only ever supposed to be 2 games. It was supposed to be the Generation 1, Generation 2. So Generation 2 was the swan song. It was the kind of wrapping it up, we're going to move on to other things. And the only reason we got the ability to go to Kanto in Johto is because when they were building Generation 2, they could only fit in one region, which was Johto. And then they got somebody in who was very high up. I think he was the director of the original of Pokemon Red and Green. And he was basically able to figure out a way to get 2 regions onto one cartridge. Like, basically just compress that data, which is one of the reasons why the original Pokemon games are buggy as hell, because the way they are coded, they just constantly pull information from all these different places, and that's why if you know what you are doing, you can just hack the hell out of those games. It's ridiculous.
As they have been, yeah.
And you were able to, and they were able to get that onto one cartridge. That's why we ended up with that. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why we haven't seen it since, because Pokemon, Gamefreak has suddenly realized, oh no, this isn't going anywhere. We don't need to do that kind of. This is everything that came before. However, that might be what they want to do for Generation 10, because Gen 10. So the way it's looking like is that Generation 10 will come. I need to remember this. I think Generation 10 comes out in. Sorry. is potentially coming out in 2025 if it follows the 3-year formula.
Sure. Yep.
2026 is the 30-year anniversary.
Yep.
So there's some people saying that, it makes sense to push Pokemon Gen 10 back a year because then you can go, it's Generation 10, it's the 30-year anniversary. There's a lot of marketing you can do around that to hype people up. However, I know I've mentioned before when we've discussed it, if I was them, I think that's the wrong way around it. I think the way you do it is you release Generation 10 in the 3-year cycle, and then the 30-year anniversary is the DLC, and you would just have a year of DLC of, you remember Johto? You want to go back to Johto? Get the DLC for Generation 10.
Yep. I've heard you say
because
that.
Because in the way they do it, and they've kind of done this with Scarlet and Violet, of you don't need to let people go back to the whole of Johto, for example, because that's just unworkable. They're never going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
What you do instead is you go, you can go back to a portion of that. So, you know what? You've completed the main story of Generation 10. Oh, well, we're going to Mount Silver. Do you want to join us in Mount Silver? You want to go to Johto? And you just have Mount Silver. And there are multiple areas in every single region where you could just have the person go to one particular area. Like, you could have it, let's go back to Kalos, but you can only go to Lumiose City. But in Lumiose City, there's just like a festival of Pokemon battling. And the Elite Four from multiple regions are there. Like, there is so much that Gamefreak could do with Gen 10 and the 30-year anniversary. And it's one of the reasons why I'm really excited, actually, for, upcoming Pokemon Presents. Because, again, it's that air of, it feels like anything could happen.
It does, and I just want to throw out there, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing because, first of all, I love your idea. I think it's a great idea with the DLC. Do you remember the trailer that came out, or it was part of Pokemon Presents, and it was like, it was Gold walking up the steps of Mount Silver, and you were like,
such a tease.
And the hype was unreal. Could you imagine if they followed your formula? And every Pokemon Presents, we got a trailer like that, but instead of a teaser, it's actually a real trailer for DLC. So, like, Pokemon Presents in 2026, it's the, it's the moment you release the X and Y legends, and it's you walking into a room, and it's, the lights turn on, and you see Xerneas in its, like, container and Team Flare. Like, the Pokemon Presents would go crazy because it also wouldn't have to be in order. It wouldn't have to go Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, Sinnoh.
Oh, no, it wouldn't.
You could just be like, we're going to throw a DLC of Gen 6 or Gen 4 and then Gen 1, like finding Mewtwo in Cerulean Cave. Let's go do that together. Like, there's so much stuff you could do with that. It's insane. I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at that trailer because that hype was so disappointing.
Forever laughing at me. So in terms of other things then that we think we could potentially be getting. Now, the last couple of Presents and Nintendo Directs, they've started to bring out old Pokemon games to Nintendo Switch Online. So we've had the trading card game, we've had Pokemon Stadium. There's another one we've had that I can't think off the top of my head. I swear we had Snap or something. I swear we've had more. We've had more. I just can't find information on the other ones, but I know that there has been more. Do you think there's a possibility that if they are thinking of, okay, how can we not slow down production of Pokemon games, but kind of give us that breathing room? Do you think there's a possibility that this year there is no new Pokemon games? However, what they do is bring old Pokemon games to Nintendo Switch Online.
I don't think that slows down anything. And so the reason I immediately am shaking my head is because I personally feel like, and there's no, data to support this or anything like that, but my personal opinion is that, like, as time goes on, I think there is a higher demand for games to come out. And I think part of that push has been, and I think I may have mentioned this on the last time I was on this podcast, is that I think as time goes on, like, due to us YouTubers, right? People that are playing the games and constantly looking for that next thing to play, that next, the content to make around Pokemon, there is that push, and it may not be like, maybe they're not hearing it directly, but I think indirectly the Pokemon company probably hears the demand for it, and they see money signs and they go, okay, well, there's a high demand, it's popular, people want everything now. And you talked about it earlier, there's that like 5-year gap between the remakes. I wonder if BDSP, you're right, it could have been meant to come out sooner. I wonder if they shortened that gap, or they're going to shorten the gap with the black and white remakes, because they're like, we don't have time to waste. Like, we want to make money. We're not going to sit around for as long as we used to. It's in higher demand. And I feel like because of social media and that push from YouTubers and other people as well, I would be very shocked if we get no game this year. I really would. And again, this is just my personal opinion, I don't think that them putting the games on the Switch, like, how would you feel? Would that scratch your itch of fresh Pokemon content if they go, hey, Ben, we're going to give you red, blue, and yellow on the Switch. Enjoy.
Okay.
I believe that being like, wow, that was really disappointing.
So no, and the reason I say that is because when they came out on the 3DS, I didn't buy them.
Okay.
Sorry, no, I bought Red, I think, and then barely played it, and didn't touch Gold and Silver. However, on the flip side of that, we know that those putting those games on the Switch console would make them money. I mean, me and Conor talked in a recent... Yeah, well, me and Conor spoke about in a...
I'm not buying it.
Well, you're not, but I can guarantee you there'll be people that will, because while we know, like, us being content creators and doing Pokemon content, we know the ins and outs of emulating games. We know the ins and outs of randomizing those games. But, we're just a small proportion. Like, there's a lot of people out there that won't know or won't want to do that and will just want a case of, okay, so if I emulate a game, there's no way for me to legally get that Pokemon into Pokemon Home to transfer it to future ones. But if there's a legitimate way for me to get Pokemon Red and transfer a Pokemon from Pokemon Red, the original game, there's a proportion of people that will do that. And let's and there have been since Pokemon started doing Pokemon, there's only been a handful of years where they haven't released any kind of brand new game, whether or not that's a remake, a sequel, a brand new mainline generation game. And one of the years was just when they just needed a break. They just took a break, and I think it was somewhere on the DS generation. And the other two times are when they've released the DLC. Now, the DLC, the things about... So those years where they haven't released mainline games, they've released Sword and Shield's DLC and Scarlet and Violet's DLC. That requires a smaller team, less workload, and it again allows them to going back to what whoever it was, the CEO of Pokemon Company, whoever it was, I can't remember, about, okay, we've heard the fans, we want to figure out how we can maintain the current rate of games coming out without compromising on the quality of them. This is a way that they do that, because it's a way to go, okay, it frees up development time, because all we need to do is figure out how we push these live to the Switch. There's very little, work that needs doing outside of maybe a bit of figuring out how they can potentially hook that up with Pokemon Home. And it's a way to just make money with very little, like work going into it.
So I actually think I pull... do I still have it? I do. Okay, so when they put red, green, blue, and yellow on the DS, the 3DS, it made a whopping total of 19 million. Now, that sounds like a lot, but when you consider that most of their games for gross revenue make 600 to 900 million, 19 million is a significant drop-off. I just pulled back up the numbers here. So you're right, it would still make money. 19 million is good, because especially when you consider that's 19 million when they just copy and paste the game, put it on the Switch, and say boom. They didn't have to design anything. So that's easy. Well, I'm making it sound easy. I don't know how that really works, but you don't have to build the game from scratch. It's easier than creating
a new game.
Correct.
Yes.
Here's my thing, though, is that so the pattern makes sense with the DLC, and I didn't know that there was a consistent pattern with that. That's good to know. I just, again, like, I think there is such a high demand for Pokemon to keep pushing things out. And I think between technology changing, YouTube, and just the push for more content, I would honestly be shocked if there was no new game and they're like, hey guys, you got DLC last year, which, by the way, Kitakami, I mean, it took me maybe like 4 hours to beat. And then Blueberry
Less
Academy,
than that for me, yeah.
It was like maybe 4. Like, I mean, we're talking, you just made the argument there of like, they didn't have to use as many resources to develop the DLC because it's just DLC, right? Well, isn't that already kind of their break last year, right? Is the DLC that we got, that's kind of the break. That's why I'm expecting games now is, okay, well, you pumped out Scarlet and Violet at the end of 2022. You had all 2023 off, basically. DLC probably didn't cost you much, and your resources, you probably didn't have to use much. Now you can show us what you've been working on. Even if it's just a glimpse, and it's just, here's the cover art, and here's the starters, get excited, right? They don't even have to give us much. Just something, I think. There has to be a new game. There's no way it quenches the thirst of Pokemon fans. You're right. The randomizers, the YouTubers, the Nuzlockers like us, that is a smaller group compared to the Shiny Hunters, the Pokédex completionists, all of them. But would that really even scratch that itch for them to be like, wow, Red, Blue, and Yellow, these really outdated games are back on the Switch that are probably a third. It takes a third of the time to beat them, like the other games that are out now. That's it. I'm good for a year. Yep, lock me in. I don't buy it. I don't see it. That's why I think they're bringing out 2 games. They've got ILCA on board. They have more support for these games. I'm telling you, we're getting 2.
So you think? Sorry, just so I'm clear and the audience are clear. You think we're getting 2 this year?
Yes. No, sorry. No, sorry. Wait, let me rephrase that. It's going to be like the Legends Arceus BDSP. So technically, in over the next 12 months, we're getting 2 games, yes, but one will be the end of this year, one will be early next year. I don't know which order, if we're getting Legends, Let's Go, whatever, but there will be 2 games. I think I'd be really interested to know, going back to what I said earlier, are they under contract with ILCA? And if so, how? Because if they've done Sleep and Home, they're clearly still under contract, but for how many games, right? Like, did ILCA say, sorry, I'm only doing this if you let me do the next 4 games? Not apps, 4 games.
Potentially.
Because if I'm ILCA, I'm not saying, oh, I'll just do BDSP and then I'll walk away. It's fine. I don't need to make more money. No, you're going to sign a contract and say, let me do the next 2. Let me do the next 3, 4, however many it is. I think we're getting 2 games.
As a company, though, as well, that it's not like you're going into that going, Gamefreak, what have you got for us? You know there are remakes down the pipeline. You know that you've at least got the DS games of Diamond and Pearl and Black and White. Then you've got the 3DS games of X and Y and Sun and Moon. Like, that's 4 games that ideally you would want a stab at. And if you can, prove with BDSP that you can do it. And you know what? Like, thinking about this a little bit more, and the frustrations with BDSP and it not bringing a load of the quality of life improvements that previous remakes had done. For the longest time, I've thought, oh, that's on Gamefreak. That is Gamefreak shutting down ILCA and going, no, stay in your lane. You can't outdo Gamefreak. You can't make this game like an amazing modern AAA game. For all we know, that could have been ILCA. That could have been ILCA just going, no, let's just play it safe. Let's deliver what they want, or what let's just deliver a game that meets all the criteria just to prove that we can do it and it's in safe hands. Because thinking about it, ILCA could have gone the complete opposite route of, we've got Pokemon, let's just do all these amazing things, and then it just bombs because the fans go, oh, no, this isn't what we wanted. And we've seen that multiple times with Game Freak of, there are things that they create and I'm sure their developers love it, but how many fans actually like the contest or the dressing up games or any of that? We give Game Freak a little bit of we let Game Freak off the hook quite a bit for a company that is responsible for one of the biggest gaming franchises in the world. Would we give that same level of respect and, lack of criticism to ILCA, we probably wouldn't. So that speaks to me of maybe ILCA thought, no, let's just toe the line and play this safe, just to secure an opportunity in the future to maybe do another remake and maybe step out just a little bit more and not just deliver a remaster, but more of your typical Pokemon remake experience.
So I'm actually going to go a slightly different direction. I agree with you that I think that it probably was ILCA. I disagree that it was ILCA's decision to be able to go in that direction. I think if I'm the Pokemon company, I have a 100% creative control because that is my property, and I don't want ILCA to come in and go, hey, we made this game. We made it the way we wanted to. By the way, it's got to go out in like a week, and it's got to go to the public. So you can't redo it, and whatever we've done is our choice. I think Pokemon said, do this. Do not change it. And this is just my opinion. I'm just guessing, speculating, right? There's no guaranteed evidence on this, but if I'm Pokemon, I don't know that I trust ILCA yet because that's their first mainline game they're working on. Now, maybe for Black and White, it's different. Maybe they get more creative opportunities and creative control. But for that first game, there is no way if I'm the Pokemon company, I'm going, yeah, just do what you want. Figure it out. Make it really cool. No, they probably went, do this, and do not stray. And that's why I think we got what we got. I think also the reason we got Chibi is because if I remember correctly, I think when I watched the trailer, or maybe there was some like someone from the Pokemon company commented on it saying we were trying to stick to, we wanted to give you that style because it was reminiscent of how Diamond and Pearl looked. So part of it also could have been Nintendo saying, look, we're trying to please the fans a little bit by giving you old school. And Chibi's new. We've never done it before. Let's try it. Didn't work, but they tried something different. So I think it's a combination of Nintendo's control or Pokemon Company's control over ILCA. They tried to stick to the faithfulness of how it looked, but while also trying something new with Chibi. And I think we're going to see that again with Black and White remakes.
Yeah. I think we will as well. Because we're coming up to the hour mark. Let's try to come to, let's try and come together and figure out then what we think we are going to see on next Thursday. I think it is. I think.
No, it's next
28th,
Tuesday,
isn't it?
Oh, it comes out next Tuesday. Yeah, I was going to ask you about this. So this podcast is going to come out after the.
No, so this
presents.
one comes out this Friday, so it comes out 4 days before presents, so that's okay. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So I think we're both in agreement that we are getting something along Pokemon Masters EX because it's just easy for them to pump out content for that.
Pick a character,
Pokemon
throw
Cafe,
a Pokemon with a legend.
Yeah, new sync pair. Cafe Remix because they always do Cafe Remix. And Pokemon Unite. They are, seems to be, because I've looked back at the last couple, they're the standard things that come out. Sorry, and Pokemon Go. We'll be getting something for Pokemon Go. They're the key things that we are getting. Okay. There's been a few times over the last couple of presents that we get the trailer for something from the anime or some kind of animation style. So, recently we've had Paldean Winds, we've had Path to the Peak, which was the trading card game.
So good. Yeah.
Do you think we're going to get some kind of anime announcement?
I thought we had one recently, though, didn't they? Did they post something on their... Is that what it is? Didn't they post something? I swear I saw something online that they tweeted about get ready for... Or wait, maybe that is Paldean Winds. I don't know. I thought they already talked about a new anime thing, so I don't know that we're going to get something else in this Pokemon Presents. We could, maybe.
I think we will, just because that seems to be what we've had. We've had that for the last two. We've had Paths to the Peak. We've had Pokemon Concierge. The year before that, we got Legends Arceus web series. The time before that, they missed.
And you love your patterns. You are on point with.
Yeah,
this happened exactly 320 days ago, and this.
The numbers. What do they mean?
The numbers don't lie.
So I think we are getting something like that. Now, chances are we're also getting something about the Pokemon World Championships. That is something that they've had in the past 3 presents.
Yes.
So that seems to be something that they like to do now. Again, a way to kind of go, oh, look at these things. We want you to go along and maybe compete. And it's just an extra opportunity to usually sell some of the extra merchandise that they have as well. And I think they wrap it up with a game announcement.
Or games.
Or games. So no, sorry. I think there's one more thing we get before games. I think they announce there are some raids coming to Scarlet and Violet. I know Scarlet and Violet is like end of life now. We've had the DLC, we've had the epilogue, which I really enjoyed the epilogue. It was just a nice way to just tie it all up. But I think we'll be getting some raids, like the usual thing of this is available for this time between these two, and it's a special just wrap up of Scarlet and Violet. Maybe mythicals or legendaries. I don't know.
I was going to actually mention that. It's funny you brought that up. I completely forgot until you just said that. So there are rumors, I believe in one of the books, or maybe in both of the books, there is a giant like bear or gorilla that's walking away. You can't see its face. You can only see its backside. It's walking on all fours.
Okay.
And there's rumors that we're potentially not done with Scarlet and Violet. There's one more mythical to come out. So if we don't get 2 games, I could see that being like the big announcement is like, hey, there's another DLC. And then maybe a game. So technically I'd be right about 2 games. Not really, but I'd be technically, we get 2 new things that are part of mainline games. So, kind of right there. But I'd be interested in more Scarlet and Violet. I like the game, so yeah. But you think there's just going to be one game then? Or...
Yes, and the only reason I think that is because typically we get 2 Pokemon Presents a year. Typically there's one in August, so there's one in February, one in August. So I could see being, okay, this is the game that you are getting in November, and then the August one is, here's the final trailer for the one that you're getting in 3 months' time. Oh, by the way, here's a trailer for the one that's coming after that, just to keep you, biting for the next piece of content. Because that's ultimately what these Pokemon Presents are, is it's just a way to kind of go, okay, we have players playing all these different games, and there is some overlap, but how do we get them to keep coming back to those games, to keep playing them and consuming them and spending money?
So do you think they won't do another... So you're saying they won't do another BDSP Legends Arceus kind of style of announcement of, hey, here's one game. The trailer finishes and you're like, oh, that was it. That was great. Oh, no, wait, there's a second trailer. You're getting another. You really don't think with the whole ILCA thing that they're not going to try and pump 2 more out?
So they did that I've got this up here, February 26th. 2021, where they did, you're right, announce both BDSP, and then straight after that it was Legends Arceus. That was 3 years ago, and if we're talking about cycles of every 3 years, every 3 years, maybe we do get a reveal of, okay, Gamefreak's been working on something to do with Unova, and ILCA's been working on the remake.
Well,
and we're getting them this year.
Part of the reason why, Ben, I think that part of the reason why I think we could get 2 games and we could get another Legends game, even though it's only been a couple years since we got that combination before, is, and maybe I'm thinking too simplistically with this, but like, they already have the blueprint for Legends Arceus now. Like, I think the hardest part with that was building it and putting it together. Now, I'm not saying you can just copy and paste it, but you at least have the guidelines to go back and say, all right, we can do this. We can tweak a few things to improve on some aspects of it, add more Pokemon models in, and you get Legend Celebi. I mean, it wouldn't be... I'm making this sound way too simple, but my point is they have the blueprint, and I think they wouldn't need as long as they did on the first game to build this one. obviously towers, buildings, Pokemarts, all that stuff would have to be different, especially if you're not doing it in like, they were trying to do that in like the old days of Pokemon. I'm assuming if they did Legends Celebi, it wouldn't just be a complete ripoff. They'd have to do something where it's maybe a bit more modern than what we got before, unless you're just literally copying and pasting the game, which I hope they don't do. So that's why I'm thinking they can do 2 games. Same with Let's Go Pikachu. They have the blueprint. They've done that style. Yeah. They could bring that back with ease to an extent. So
Potentially. I mean, it's one thing that we've not discussed actually is Let's Go, because I have seen several rumors now going, "Oh, we're getting Let's Go Wooper and something." I'm like, no one,
Meryl.
No one's like the only way I could see them branding that is Togepi and Pichu, mainly because they're both baby Pokemon. They're both 3-form evolutions. Pichu is obviously plays into Pikachu because, it's the pre-form. Togepi is the first egg that you get in that game, and Togepi is a well-known Pokemon. It was in the anime as well for the longest time. Misty had it. That is a potential. However, I just don't see, and what we have to remember is we have to think about that in all likelihood, the Switch 2 isn't. They're not going to announce in Pokemon Presents, we've got this game coming out later on this year on the Switch 2, okay? That's not the Pokemon Company, while it works closely with Nintendo, it isn't Nintendo, okay? They are not going to steal Nintendo's thunder of a release date. So they've got to play this very sensibly. So I actually think that, you know what I think? Okay, I've decided. I think we're getting a trailer or a sneak peek for a Pokemon game coming out this year on the Nintendo Switch. And then in our August Pokemon Presents, we will be having the first Pokemon game of the Switch successor being announced.
So, to add to that, though, so you talked about earlier with, I think it was X and Y and Let's Go. Those were the first games on each of their respective consoles. That's why they sold so well and they did so well. So what you're saying then is that in August, we are getting a trailer of Gen 10. Because you can't make the first Switch 2 game Let's Go Johto and then the second one be Gen 10. It has to be Gen 10 as the first game on the Switch 2. That sells so well.
So well. Yeah. It's and this is the thing. Like Nintendo is a strange one where when you think of Nintendo, typically you don't think of Pokemon. You think of Mario. You think of Zelda. You think of those console sellers, and it's strange to me that Pokemon isn't seen as a console seller. And I think part of the reason why is like Gamefreak and Nintendo, obviously through Pokemon Company, work closely together. But I think there's a bit of a we let them put their games on our console because they sell well, but we're not completely on board with how they do things. But it makes money. However, it's a very weird situation. However, Nintendo probably could go, while we don't normally see Pokemon as a console seller, Generation 10, big number like that actually could be seen as a console seller. This is Gen X, like that kind of thing, that powerful marketing that makes you go, okay, that's absolutely fantastic. And as we've seen from Scarlet and Violet, like they know how to market their games. Like when I saw all the billboards and stuff for Scarlet and Violet, I didn't see any of that for Sword and Shield, but Scarlet and Violet, they went hard on the marketing. And I remember seeing the big billboards of, the character looking out over Paldea, and it was like, the tagline or something was like explore a brand new Pokemon world or something like that. Like they could do that with Generation 10 and it potentially would be a console seller.
And so and to your point with the promotional part of it, right? Think about 2026, I believe if I have the dates right. So that's Gen 10, 30-year anniversary, and the first game on Switch 2. if they go with Gen 10 being on the Switch 2, right, as their first Pokemon game on there. And that's why I'm saying, if you're saying in August that they announce the first game on the Switch 2, it would have to be Gen 10, because that would, like, we're picking and poking at little things here, but, like, the first game on the Switch 2 being Let's Go Meryl, and then following that up Gen 10 just sounds so weird. It just doesn't sound right.
The reason they did Let's Go for the Switch is it was an opportunity for them to figure out how the console works with their game engine. So that's why they chose that, because it was an easy way to build a game, because they didn't have to think much about the region or the Pokemon, or most of the characters, because they were already pre-existing. It was an easier task for them, because they just went, okay, we know Kanto, we know the Pokemon, we know how it works, we just need to figure out how we get it onto this new game engine.
Wasn't it also because of Pokemon Go being so hyped up and popular at the time? Which is why I think that's why I don't think, if I had to pick a game that's not going to show up next week, it's going to be a Let's Go game. I think that probably doesn't come back, because I feel like the Pokemon Go series is kind of, the hype has died. Like, it shows up in the presents, right? But, like, how many people, I mean, compared to when it came out to now, not even close.
Pokemon Go still makes a shed load of money. It's constantly in, like, top 10 salaries in app stores. Now, again, Niantic don't tell you how much they earn, okay? They are very close-fisted about how much money they actually make. However, just from being in the Pokemon community, I know that their events and tickets that they sell, like, people are buying them. You know, there are 3 tickets available at the moment in Pokemon Go. There are each £4.99 that unlock various things, one of which is just a shiny shaman at the end of, you know, several tasks that you have to do. Now, I did the shiny Mew. And it cost me £4.99, and the reason I did that is because I'd wanted a shiny Mew since I was a little boy, and I never had one legitimately. Now I have one. Sure. The shaman one, I'm not that fussed about. But I know there are people that will constantly be taking part in all these different things, buying the raid passes, trying to farm out the best Pokemon with the best stats and the shiny Pokemon. Like, Pokemon Go makes a lot of money. However, I think that the Let's Go connection, I think it worked for Pikachu and Eevee. I think that came out at the right time.
Yep. Because of the hype.
Pokemon Go was because of the hype. I think there's a reason we've not seen another Let's Go game, and it's because Gamefreak acknowledged that there's not a lot of appetite for it. And if people had to choose between, because if Let's Go is in contention, is a decision at Gamefreak of, we've got all these games, Let's Go's one of them for, you know, Gen 2, that has to push something else out. Are you telling me that Let's Go pushes out a remake, a brand new Pokemon game, or a Legends game? It doesn't. It's at the bottom of that pile, surely. And if we go back to, you know, Game Freak wanting to maintain the release schedule without compromising on quality, I'm sorry, like, Let's Go just doesn't slot in there, unfortunately.
The only thing I could think of as to why they would do it, and I'll be honest with you, I did not realize Pokemon Go was still doing so well financially. I mean, financially doesn't necessarily mean that there's a big popularity. There could be a large group of people or a small group of people that are spending way too much money on it. So, you know, we'd have to look at the numbers for that. But
hold on. I've got the numbers. Bear with me a second. I got the numbers. So take these with a grain of salt. I've literally just searched online, and it's the first hit that's come up. Okay, so it says, bear with me a second. So 2023. It made $566 million.
Wow.
2022, $652 million. 2021, $875 million. 2020, which is the year that the world went to pot, it made $908 million. Of course it did, because no one could go out. People had disposable income, and they introduced raid passes that you could do remotely. Gamefreak, Niantic still makes a shed load of money, but I don't think that audience transitions well to Let's Go. And that's why we're not going to see another Let's Go game.
Well, potentially, but that would be my counter argument and my devil's advocate play on that, is that seeing as how well they're doing, obviously there's a dip from 2020 to now, and it's a slow dip, but you are seeing the drop off. Do they look at that and say, we want to bring the hype back to Pokemon Go? There is no pandemic now. People might be more inclined to play the game a bit more if we bring out Let's Go. I guess the counter argument to that counter argument, though, is Meryl and Wooper as exciting as Pikachu and Eevee? Pikachu and Eevee, even if you barely know Pokemon, you know Pikachu. And there's a good chance you know Eevee because Eevee's adorable. It's got the evolutions. You've seen it somewhere as a plushie, like right behind Ben. So, but who knows Meryl and Wooper? Are they as desirable in terms of getting the games? Do they sell? I can see both sides of it, but you're right. I think out of all the options they have, that is at the bottom. That could be a game I could see ILCA taking over, where they give it to them and say, you know what, we're going to pump out a second game. We think it'll do fine. It'll push for Pokemon Go, which apparently is still doing well. I had no idea. And that promotes Pokemon Go and maybe increases sales in that game. So maybe ILCA does that, and that's the only way I see them keeping a Let's Go game.
Yes.
It's been like 4 years. Has it been 5 years now? Or 4 years or something like that?
Since Let's Go?
Yeah, since the first Let's Go, yeah. Wasn't that 2018? No. 19?
About that. It was, hold on, initial release date. 16th of November 2018.
Wow.
So it's been 6 years. No, not 6 years. Been five and a half
months. Yeah. Wow. Crazy. Yeah.
At this point, I think Let's Go is. I think if we are going to see it, it will be an ILCA-driven game rather than a Gamefreak game. I think Gamefreak have kind of made their stand and point with Legends of. No, we. Because for quite a while, people have been saying, oh, Game Freak, they haven't got the creativity anymore. Legends Arceus was them going, oh no, we've got the creativity. You might not like everything about this game, but it's almost a proof of concept of we are creative. We can create new games in the Pokemon universe that aren't just here are the 8 gyms and the Elite Four. We can do something a little bit different. And I struggle to see them now going back to, okay, now let's do the same old that we've always done for another 10 years. Like, I think that we are going to see more opportunities for them to develop other Pokemon games and other games that aren't Pokemon. They announced that they were working on, I think it was Project Bloom, about a year ago. And we've heard nothing else about that. And Game Freak do actually pump out every now and again games that aren't Pokemon games. Very rare, but they don't sell well because, of course, Pokemon is their bread and butter. That's what they know. That's what sells well.
But just to jump back, though, to the main topic that we got completely sidetracked from, what game then are we agreeing on that we think is going to be promoted in the presents? Do we think, because you were leaning towards Red, Blue, and Yellow on the Switch, but
so I don't think that's going to happen. I wanted to just bring it up as a discussion point, to be quite honest with you. Fair. I think that, and the reason why is I think that you are right. Like, we got the DLC last year. I don't see them doing 2 back-to-back years of there's no brand new game. So I don't think that's going to happen. I actually think now, thinking about it, that this year we get an ILCA game.
Just an ILCA game.
Just an ILCA game.
What game?
Announced for November. I think it has to be the Black and White remake.
Okay, yeah. Now the question is, do they stick Chibi style, or do they go Sword and Shield? Yep. Or, do you think they go back to Chibi?
I think they stick Chibi style. I think that is the workaround of, well, how do we pump out as much content as we can without compromise on quality? You go for the Chibi styles because it allows you to hide a lot of the background area and noise, and it allows you to reuse assets without it being seen as cheap. Like, all those trees in a row in BDSP, no one bats an eyelid. Reuse the same tree in Sword and Shield or Scarlet and Violet. Everyone just loses their mind. Get away with it with chibi sprite style. So that's what I think we're getting. We're getting Black and White remake in a chibi sprite. We're getting some more raids just to tide us over. We're getting some kind of announcement of an animation style thing. And then we get all the usual stuff of championships, Pokemon Go, Unite, Masters EX, Cafe Remix.
I am just so excited for whatever trailer it is, whether it's for Black and White, Black White 2, Black 3, a Legends Arceus game. I'm just so excited for the moment where the trailer's going on, everyone's like, oh, and it goes to like, Black and White came out in what, 2010?
I've got that. Bear with me a second. I had it somewhere. Black and White came out in 2010. Yes.
Okay, 2010.
Right.
So I was right with the first one. So they did it for BDSP where they went through the years and it stopped on 2008 or something like that. And then everyone was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for everyone to freak out about the date or something about Black and White. And they flipped to chibi. Because I don't hate it enough to not want to play the game. Like, I will definitely get it. I'll play it. I'll let's play it, all that stuff. But like, I'm just excited for those reactions when it is chibi and if it's not and ILCA designs it and they come up with something different, that'll be pretty cool too. But either way, it's a benefit.
So the chibi sprites I hated on reveal, and then when we actually sat down and played our Cage Lock run through of it, I actually grew to love the art style of that game. And let's be honest with you, the Pokemon started as chibi style. Yep. It's been chibi style up until I mean, even the X and Y and Auras, like, they were chibi style to some degree.
To a degree,
it's only when we finally hit it's only with Scarlet and Violet really that they've kind of gone, okay, let's give people more realistic proportions. Sword and Shield didn't have completely realistic proportions. They've slowly over each generation gone, just add an extra inch to each person to eventually get it to us. Okay, kind of looks normal. Because X and Y had that awkward thing where in the overworld they were slightly smaller, and then every now and again it would cut to a cutscene, and it's like all of a sudden you're like, oh, the professor's like a full-grown adult, but in the overworld he's like a chibi, so it's dead weird.
The head is way too big for the body.
Yes, exactly. But so I think that is what we're potentially getting. Of course, I cannot wait to be let down by Pokemon Presents, as normally I am. We hype ourselves up.
Maybe you'll get excited and they'll surprise you with 2 games, and maybe we get another Legends game. I am all for another Legends game because I'm going to tell you right now, some of my favorite music to listen to while live streaming or just not streaming it, just hanging out, just doing stuff at home. I love Legends Arceus' music. That soundtrack, I love.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's not like rock or anything. It's all softer music and relaxing, but it's so chill. I hope we get more of that. Yeah.
Yep. Agreed. I think that's the show for this week. If you've gotten this far, you're just a top dollar, aren't you? Of course, before you go, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave a review on the podcast platform of your choice. And if you're watching on YouTube, then please leave a like, as it really helps out our channel. Of course, if you've got a comment or question, you can reach us by leaving a comment on our podcast on YouTube, by emailing goldenrodpod@gmail.com, by leaving it on our Discord channel, or by using the hashtag goldenrodpod on Twitter. Of course, if you don't know who Sam is, if you haven't seen any of our content from the last 4 or 5 years, something like that.
That's crazy.
It's mad to think about. Then follow the link in the description because it will take you to British Eagle's channel, Sam's channel, on YouTube, where you do a variety of Let's Plays and a lot of Radical Red live stream.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Go check me out. Hit that like button on all the videos. Subscribe, all that fun stuff. Yeah, Radical Red. Lots of different JRPGs for the first time. I do a lot of blind JRPGs. So if you're into that kind of stuff and want to watch me fail and get lost constantly, subscribe.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Well, Sam, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast once again. And hopefully we'll get you back on, again in in the near future. Once a year is what we're doing at the moment, so let's try and get twice a year, shall we?
It's another pattern. It's another pattern.
What did the numbers mean?
No, thanks for having me, man. No, this is fun. I enjoy being on the podcast. Anytime I need to jump in or help out or anything, yeah, I'm happy to be here. So, I'll count the days from the last one to this one, and I'll figure out when I need to be on the next one, because there's a pattern to all of these things.
Point in your calendar.
It's the numbers. Yeah.
It's the numbers. It is absolutely the numbers. With all that being said, we'll be back next Friday for another week of Pokemon Podcast. See ya!